Hello, and today Great.com talks with Elizabeth Slater from Youth on Their Own, and she is going to educate us on the dropout prevention and youth homelessness in Pima County. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, and it's a pleasure. And before we dive in, if you are new here and you like what we do, please click subscribe on YouTube or your podcast app. Thank you. So Elizabeth, hello. And the first question that I'm going to ask you would be, what is Youth on Their Own and what do you do? Just because for me, this is new, and for anybody watching this, this could be new to them too. So could you just explain what you do?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Youth on Their Own is a not-for-profit organization, and we have a unique approach to supporting youth who are experiencing homelessness, teens especially. Because for us, we know that the best tool we have to disrupt the cycle of poverty is education. So our approach to working with homeless youth is really to focus on education. Our mission is to help teens who are experiencing homelessness achieve high school graduation. And that becomes really hard because homeless teens drop out at much higher rates, of course, because they are having to support themselves and kind of figure out life on their own. So they're dropping out of school to get jobs. And obviously all the things that a traditional family might provide you as a teenager is all of a sudden missing. So they have to fill in and provide it for themselves. So Youth on Their Own focuses on that. We actually give a financial incentive to students to attend school. So if they stay enrolled in school and achieve passing grades, they receive a financial a stipend from us every month. So the idea is we're trying to shift the incentive. Instead of dropping out to get a job and earn money, they can stay in school and earn money. And then in addition to that, we provide all the basic needs that they might receive from a family. They can get that for free from us while they're enrolled. So food, hygiene supplies, socks and underwear, school supplies, a laptop, a bicycle, a bus pass, any of the things that would create a barrier to them attending school and kind of participating as a normal teen in life. They can get that support from us while they're in the program. And of course, sometimes we end up providing kind of one-time emergency assistance. If their power is about to get shut off or they're going to get evicted, they can come to us and request some special financial assistance because, you know, what we found is like one unexpected event can totally derail a student's plan to stay in school if they're experiencing homelessness. So sometimes we provide some of those special needs as well.
Wow, I absolutely love that because it means so much to me because so many of us throughout life, we all just need that little helping hand, right? We don't just go through life and expect everything just to fall on our plate. Like sometimes we all do need a help and we need to reach out, and it sounds like you guys are there to offer that support to the students. So I bet they're super, super grateful. And it sounds like an incredible organization. So thank you. And on behalf of everyone, because this is incredible. And I wish I had something like this at school as well.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest needs for the students? Like what are the things that they need the most quite often?
Mm-hmm. I think they need things in a couple categories. So, I mean, if you think about like humans, like the hierarchy of needs, they're really focused on the bottom level, which is like survival, like food, where am I going to sleep tonight? And how am I going to clothe myself? And it's really hard to expect teenagers to excel in other areas like education and social skills if they really are so focused on survival. So the biggest needs that they have are adults to help them navigate that and to provide some of those needs, which is how the community supports us mostly, is providing funding and also physical donations that we pass on to the students. And then the other category of things they need are more about kind of emotional support, because a lot of the youth we serve, the reason they're experiencing homelessness is that they had some trauma in their life, some traumatic event. All the students in our program are homeless through no fault of their own, meaning they didn't just run away because their parents were strict. There was some kind of trauma or abuse happening in the home, or a parent kicked them out, or the parent got deported. And all of a sudden, through no fault of their own, the young person is on their own. So they really need adults who care about them to just be in their life. And of course, most of them do get access to caring adults at their school, which is great. And that's why school is a is a top place to be if you're a homeless youth. Achieving high school graduation will change the trajectory of their life, and there's a lot of caring adults in that setting. So we love that they're in school. That's our mission. But they also need just other people who aren't teachers, who they're not like accountable to for things. We're not grading them. We're just in their life to support them and be friendly adults that are just reliable. Because I think that's a thing that's missing for a lot of our participants. They don't have those like reliable adults in their life they can ask for advice or just go to when they're dealing with something stressful. So the emotional support is one of the biggest needs too.
Yeah, and that really hits home with me because I've suffered from mental health issues before as well. And it's so difficult when you feel like you've got nobody. And for these people, like you say, these students, this is no fault of their own, like you said, and they sometimes just need somebody to talk to. They need some empathy and just to unload all of those emotions and thoughts that obviously are going to be going through their head, because if they got to try to achieve their grades at school, but also need to think of how am I going to survive tonight, or how am I going to eat tonight? There's a lot of emotions going on and a lot of thoughts in their mind. So that's so nice that you guys are there to listen and to help as well, help support. So that's going to lead me on to saying, what are the effects on the students' mental health situations?
Generally, they have a lot of mental health needs in general, but I will tell you over the past year, because of COVID, a lot of their needs really skyrocketed in ways that we weren't totally prepared for, I think, as a society to really understand that. So I'll give you a couple examples. So one is, I think there's like a misperception about what homelessness looks like for teenagers. Most of them are not sleeping in a car or in the street. For teens, it usually looks like couch hopping. So they don't have a home of their own. They don't have a parent, but they might stay at your house for a few weeks. Then they stay at my house for a month. They're hopping around. So there are people giving them a place, a shelter. And that got really hard during COVID because all of a sudden the families that might have been willing to take in a stranger, all of a sudden were thinking twice because they were thinking about the health of their own family. So of course, we were all sheltering in place. We were trying to stay as safe as possible. And so it got harder for these young people to find places to crash. And we just saw the stress level really go up because the social networks that they relied on at a school setting all of a sudden weren't there. They didn't have a friend they could talk to ask for a place to stay, or someone who was going to share their lunch with them because schools were shut down. And when you think about online learning for students, Youth on Their Own was there to provide a laptop and the types of technical support they would need to go to school virtually. But if you don't have a consistent place to live, you don't have consistent internet access, you don't have a place where you have a background appropriate for Zoom, that you can do class online all day, the barriers just grew like a mountain. So I think the mental health needs really mirrored that because the stress was so great just trying to navigate this time. And a lot of the youth in our program do earn money by having jobs in addition to going to school. And those were the jobs that all of a sudden they lost. They weren't working at concert venues anymore, at restaurants, stuff like that. The jobs they had were the jobs that were pretty much eliminated during COVID. And we stepped it up. We definitely received an outpouring of support from the community. We're providing, we're funding counseling for youth who are in our program if they want to talk to a mental health professional. And we're just really trying to amplify all the impact we can have with the youth who are connected with our program. We definitely saw a decrease in enrollment this year because so many homeless youth did not continue in school during the pandemic. Our hope is that our schools here in the US are starting to reopen. So in the upcoming school year, when things sort of hopefully will look a little bit more back to normal, those students will go back to the school setting and we'll be able to access them again.
Wow, that's quite hard to hear actually, because these students, this is no fault of their own, and like I say, they could be couch hopping, but then this whole COVID situation come in. Who knows what they could have done? Did you have situations where there was students say living rough?
Yes, we always do. So it just depends. But, we provide different, obviously we would connect them to whatever housing services we can. Sometimes that means we're paying for a hotel for a couple nights till we can figure out a longer plan. Sometimes they're connected to, we have one teen shelter in our community, so we refer to to that shelter if someone is literally homeless. They were, all over the board. They had really varying kind of solutions to the problem they were facing. It just got a lot harder to solve the problem.
Yeah, and I'm sure it must be super hard, because this whole COVID situation was, well, it still is. It's crazy. It's so unprecedented. So I can just only imagine what effects it must have had on the students. And the thing is, I remember, say, being at school and trying to just focus on getting my grades and my exams done. So the effects of these students, say, not realizing or not understanding or being aware that they might not have a place to stay, or they might not have food or clothes to use. What sort of effects does that have on their performance?
I can tell you the data, which is that homeless youth in general in the United States have very low rates of high school graduation, incredibly low. When an organization like Youth on Their Own is in the picture and supports them, our seniors have an 82% graduation rate, which is actually higher than the state average for our state, Arizona. So what I can tell you is that there is an incredible resilience, and with the right supports at the basic level, at the stuff so they don't have to stress about food and where to sleep. These students are so committed to changing their circumstances and achieving something for themselves that they will outperform students who are not experiencing homelessness if they just get some support at the basic level. And I think that's so transformative, because I think about this a lot, and I know your organization cares about effective altruism and understands that concept and how to make the most difference you can. And for us, we hear a lot from donors who want to hear what's new, what's sexy, what's the next thing you're doing for students. And it's like, we actually need to unpack that idea and just say, no, the thing you can do that's most transformative is the most basic. You can give us money to pay students to go to school, or you can give us goods that we will pass on to them, like deodorant. Because if you're like a 15-year-old and you haven't taken a shower in a week, it's really not likely that you're going to show up to school if you smell. So it's like, basic things are the transformative things. And I think sometimes that's the message I really wish more donors and people who want to make a difference could embrace, that simple solutions are the most transformative solutions very often. And of course, we want people to be excited about what we're doing. And we do a lot of work to really engage donors and feel like they're part of our family with our organization. But a lot of folks do still really crave, what's the next thing? What's the different thing I can be part of? And what can I fund that's like new on the horizon? And we do have new things. We're always, growing. But what you can really do to help transform lives is to give resources to the basic solutions that we know work, that actually transform lives for youth. And so I don't know, that's something I sort of struggle with a little bit sometimes, because it's not natural for people to think that way. They really do want to be part of what's exciting and new. But for us, we can prove it that the basic supports we provide in the most fundamental areas of survival and human support for a young person will transform their outcomes.
Wow, that's incredible. And I absolutely love what you said there about just the basic needs of what we all need, because what really stood out to me was when you said about the deodorant side of it. And if I just say, use me as an example, imagine me as a teenage boy going to school and not having used deodorant, say, for a week. I would smell. And not only would that make other people be looking at me and probably like making jokes about me, but that'd be in my mind as well, because that'd be affecting my mental health and going, oh my God, I smell, or I'm not clean. So again, your focus isn't on getting the grades and performing. Your focus is then on what are people saying and talking about me, because that's really hard. And that's something that we all take for granted, right? It's just to wake up, wash ourselves, brush our teeth, etc. So yeah, that's really hit me there to realize that we take so much for granted on a daily basis.
Right.
And yeah, so that's really impactful, and it's really hit home. And I was going to say, like, so when people say come in and they give the resources, is there a specific procedure for doing that at all, or is it just because obviously this whole COVID thing now? So do you have to quarantine the items at all or anything like that, or is it just drop off and go?
That's a great question. We have changed our protocols during COVID, but mostly we are just limiting the amount of public interaction with our facility, because the last thing we want to do is like pass on COVID to one of our students who do not have a doctor. They do not seek medical care typically, and they might be staying in a home with a host. So even if they don't get super sick, we don't want it to pass on to the host home. So we changed our protocols a bit in that we are doing, we're collecting donations on fewer days of the week when the public can come. They don't come into the facility at all. We do no touch. So they drop stuff off at a table outside and then we bring it in and sort it. So we don't keep the items for a certain amount of time before we pass them out. We sort them right away, but the interaction with the public has gone down pretty dramatically. And they're really looking forward to the time when they can come back to the organization. We're hearing that a lot from donors. They want to come back and get more involved firsthand, because it does feel like a very special place when they come to see us at Youth on Their Own. And so we look forward to welcoming everyone back kind of in the new normal whenever we're able to do that.
Oh, I love that. And it sounds like it's going to be beautiful. And it's going to lead me on to saying, what does Youth on Their Own like see the future to be like, the near future? What do you see that to be like?
Mm-hmm. The near future is about transitioning back to kind of normal day to day. We want to get more students back in school, because I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in the US, homeless youth have dropped out of school in enormous numbers over the past year. So in the near future, we want to get more of our youth who are experiencing homelessness back to the school setting, back into the groove, and like back on track. In a long-term way, I think what's on the horizon for us is that the model that Youth on Their Own uses is unique. There's no other organization doing this in the US. But we have had other cities contact us wanting to figure out how to replicate this model there. So I think on the long-term horizon for us is to put together like a replication toolkit and maybe an expansion team that does help new cities that want to start something similar have this kind of impact in their own cities. So that I think we're certainly not focused on expansion now, because right now we need to focus on getting back to students functioning normally in society. But we would like to think about how to grow this impact and help other teens in other cities succeed in school and kind of navigate all the challenges of youth homelessness with someone standing right beside them and helping them and walking with them through the process.
Yeah, I absolutely love that again. And my personal experience and opinion would be that this needs to go globally. Like, this could be all around the world. Like, everyone needs a part of this, especially for a young teenager or a student, because people are in these positions with no choice of their own. So this is going to be the next generation too. So we need to help these guys and girls. So yeah, I think it's incredible. So I'm pretty sure that you've already explained this, Elizabeth, but just going for people that are watching, how can people get involved and help?
I love that question, because it's so easy. For our organization, we take help all the time with very open hands. We have no problem asking for help. So we have a website, which is yoto.org, yoto.org, and where we accept financial donations, and there's information about how to donate goods. So if you're in our local area or you want to buy something on an Amazon wish list or something, there's other ways if you would prefer to send donated items. But the number one way people can help is by donating funds that we pass on directly to students. But then the other way I would mention is that a lot of adults might be surprised to hear that they probably know a young person experiencing homelessness, or like their son or daughter might know someone at school. And the way that homeless youth get connected to services often is through peer networks. So I would just say a huge way people can help is to talk about this, to ask, because it sometimes is uncomfortable for teens to come forward and say, like, I'm in this situation. They feel embarrassed. Sometimes they feel shame, which they shouldn't, of course, but adults who are, can outreach to those young people and just start talking about the issue more. I think that you'll hear like, oh, actually, that sounds like something that my friend's going through. Let me get you connected to her. And then it just helps more teens access services. So that's another big way that people can help. And I think sometimes folks think, oh, I don't know anybody like that in that situation, but you actually probably do. Or if you have a son or daughter who's a teenager, they definitely do at their school. And you can help by just talking about it more, getting rid of the stigma. Like it's not something they need to be ashamed of. It's not their fault. And any adult out there can help more teens connect to the resources available to them.
That is incredible. And I totally agree with you, because the more we talk about these type of things, it's like a domino effect. Like, it's a knock-on effect, right? And one person helps one person and another person helps another person. And I honestly believe that a problem shared is a problem halved. So the more people that can talk about something like this, the better. So Elizabeth, I want to say thank you so much for coming on today, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I really love talking with you. Thanks a lot.